Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 221 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeoffLambert77. We are here every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and syndicated in all major podcast networks. And, of course, streaming the Go-To app for iOS and Android. I'm here with my two co-hosts tonight. First up, we got Mr. Tim Strobel. Tim, what's up, man?
I'm doing good tonight, Geoff. Doing good. Looking forward to week 2. Moving on from week 1. Ready to just leave that behind.
Yes, sir. I don't know. Someone's got their weird camera on because I can't get you on camera. I got some weird share screen going on here. All of us sitting into the stands. Someone's messing with Skype over there. So we're going to have to go to... I can't even go to the split screen. Someone's going to have to fix that. Gerson, I think it's you.
What'd I do? What'd I do?
We got some weird Skype screen on right now. Together mode or something. Let me see if I can turn it off. Let's see if we can get that fixed. There are little technical difficulties here. Gerson showing up at the last minute. I wasn't able to set my cameras.
That's what I think of you.
All right, let's see if that fixes it here. Let me see who's on. Tim's on 2, Gerson's on 1. All right, now we're good. All right, Tim, man, sorry about that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, just ready to move on to week 2.
Yes, sir. Gerson, Mr. Last minute show up. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, you know what? I'm here. Okay, that's all that counts.
That's all that counts.
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just trying to recover from Vegas still. Took me like 4 days. I told my coworkers every day, I think I'm like 80% here. And like every day it was like 85. But I finally feel good enough to finally drink again. I think I destroyed my liver. I mean, Vegas was crazy. It was fun. The Raiders game was awesome. But DFS-wise, it wasn't such a hot week. A lot of my stacks didn't really go off on the way back. They went off like one way, but not the way back. But also a lot of players busted. A lot of the Shulk value play busted.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute with the rewind. Let's go ahead and get into that.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
All right, Tim, I'm going to go to you first. I know you had some rough patches there. Your team had a rough patch as well. Go ahead and talk about your last week.
Obviously my Packers stacks did not pay off last week. I had to obviously eat that one. Gerson tried to warn me. So, yeah, I saw an image that was on Twitter where, like, the whole Packers defense had their hands on their hips in the second quarter, and I was like, oh, no, this is over. So, yeah, that obviously didn't work. But DFS-wise, man, process-wise, I learned something important this week. And, last week on the show, I was really high on Deebo Samuel. And when the news came out about Trey Sermon, I pivoted all of my Deebo to Mostert. And I had a lineup that would have been a top 1%. I wouldn't have made that swap. So I got to, factor those things in, make sure I don't get too overexposed to one player, because that could have been real nice.
Yeah, I had a situation, too, where I made a cardinal sin that I've always told people not to do. I had D-Hop in my cash lineup, and I looked at my cash lineup, and I didn't have a single player from the 4 o'clock game. He's like, you know what? I have enough money. I can upgrade to Devonta Adams in the 4 o'clock game, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that just screwed me. If I would have kept D-Hop in my lineup, I would have cashed all across the board. Adams screwed me by trying to get the 4 o'clock player in there, which never pans out. Just if you got a guy that's 1 o'clock game, just play him. Don't change him.
Yep.
Gerson, what did you have? How'd you do last week?
Like I said, I didn't do too hot, but I didn't go broke. So
There
I'm
you go.
glad to just make some of my money back. I mean, I lost a lot of money in Vegas though, so it doesn't fucking matter. So, but I did gain something in value week 1. I learned that you have to like go back, rewind, look at what you did right, what you did wrong, but trust the process. You can't dwell on the past, because if you dwell on the past, you're gonna have like what do you call it? We say in fantasy where next level thinking or next level,
Analysis.
next level analysis, and then next thing you know, you're just all over the place. So just trust the process, move on. The best thing you can do is go back and look and see what you did wrong.
Yep, 100% agree. Learn from your mistakes, that's for sure. And first week's always tough because we don't really know these teams. They've changed a lot of different defensive pieces. So week 1's a learning process. All right, on to week 2, though. Week 2, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, Tim, let's start here at the top with some of your top-tier quarterbacks. Who do you got for your top tier?
Yeah, I'm going to start with a guy who really impressed me in week 1, and that's Russ Wilson. He came out just absolutely firing last week. I think he's going to continue that this week. He gets Tennessee, who's just an absolutely terrible defense, especially in the passing game. I think he's easily going to be able to pass all over them. And, he's one of my top guys this week for sure. And he gives you a nice little discount over Kyler Murray, who I think is another great quarterback. So his stacked options are expensive, but I think it's worth paying up for in this matchup.
Yeah, I like Russ as well. That's a good call. And I believe they're at home, right? They're playing in Seattle. So that he's always.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
they get the 12th man back again.
Yep. They didn't have him last year because there was no fans in the stands, but this year they got the 12th man.
That's right.
Gerson, who you got up in your top tier quarterbacks here?
That's cute. You guys call him Russ, not Russell.
Mr. Wilson.
Dak is, I think I said it in the offseason. Geoff knows this. I was all over Dak as being the top 3 quarterback. I love this guy. I love this offense. And I love their defense because it sucks. So it makes this offense even more valuable. Dak is averaging over 418 yards in his last 5 starts. I mean, you give me that along with a couple touchdowns, that's a quarterback. That's at least a quarterback 3, So in this game, this game, boys, oh boys. I mean, when I saw this this is what I do every week. Every week on Wednesday, I go and look at First Look. It's on RotoGrinder. Shout out to them. I check and see my totals, and that total was so beautiful, 55 points.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, we are going to be cooking.
Yeah.
But I love Dak in this game against the Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to be a great game environment, and neither team – well, the Chargers have a better defense than the Cowboys, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to the other side on that game. You mentioned how the Dallas defense sucks, so the player that I have, of course, is going to be Justin Herbert. I think this is going to be probably the most popular game to stack, obviously, because you got Keenan Allen on one side, you got Cooper, and you got CeeDee Lamb on the other side. If you want to go with the running backs, you got Zeke. You got all kinds of stuff here. Like you mentioned, it's got the highest total on the slate, so you can't go wrong there. So I'm going with Justin Herbert versus that Dallas defense. And we know those targets will be condensed. We saw last week it was Mike Williams and Keenan Allen getting most of the targets. So if that continues, it's an easy stack to make. So give me some Justin Herbert.
And to give you an idea of how high you own that game is going to be, usually quarterback percentage is really allocated pretty low. But that game, Justin Herbert coming in at 12%, and then Dak Prescott's coming in at 13.8.
Wow.
I mean, everybody. You, your mom, your dad, your dog, your little cat, your next door neighbor, your ex-girlfriend, they're all going to be playing this game. So,
yeah, definitely. Tim, you got another guy in your thing that I want to talk about really quick. The old man.
I do. The ageless wonder, Tom Brady, man. He came out firing last week against Dallas. He threw the ball 50 times. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty at running back, but there's no uncertainty at quarterback. All the awesome weapons that he has that you can stack with. So I'm going to go back with Tom Brady. I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned than he would be because there's going to be so much ownership in that same price range on Dak and Herbert. So I really like Brady stacks. He's not going to be unowned, but I think he'll be less popular than those other 2 guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good pivot, and we saw that Falcons defense made Jalen Hurts like a Hall of Famer because he lit them up. Yeah, so I think Brady can do the same. So
Yeah,
Love it.
The Falcons' pass defense has been bad for a long time, but like you said, they made Jalen Hurts look like MVP, so
Yep.
it should be easy money for Brady.
I agree. All right, let's move down into the mid-tiers, and Gerson, I'll go to you first this time. Give me one of your mid-tier guys there.
First off, Jalen Hurts is a possible MVP, and that's the guy I'm going to talk about. At 6,500, I think I saw a picture that basically he's averaging almost even more points than what Lamar Jackson was averaging in his first, I think, whatever start it is. And basically, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's MVP level. And you got to remember, Lamar Jackson had an all-time high quarterback point. So if Jalen Hurts is averaging that, then his ceiling could only be higher because I think he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson threw for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception, and rushed for 62 yards. I keep telling people this. Think of a Konami code quarterback. If they get 80 yards, that's 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
That's such a big advantage. And this week, they're playing the 49ers, and I get it. Some people are afraid of the pass rush and whatnot and the Eagles' offensive line. I'm not too worried about it because they just lost their cornerback, Jason Verrett, who's probably their best cornerback. And they're going to be playing with I think his name is Josh Norman, the guy that got punched by a wide receiver. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That's the only way I remember who he was.
Yeah, Emmanuel Mosley is doubtful too, so he's probably not going to play either. So
Yep, it's brutal.
Yeah, so give me Jalen Hurts, and you can actually stack him in that game. I mean, I think Devonta Smith and Goddard are a good stack, and bring it back with one of the Ayuk or, I mean, if you want low ownership, it's Ayuk, or Mr. Debo. You know.
All right, yeah, you can go Kittle too if you want to pay up at tight end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree there. I think Hurts, like Tim mentioned, we've got some injuries in our secondary that definitely are going to hurt us. Verrett's been our best cornerback for a while, and he goes down for the year, so that's going to hurt. He was almost a near shutdown corner on that side over there, so that's going to hurt us for sure. Tim, I'm going to go to you for one of your mid-tiers.
Yeah, we're in week 2, and one of the staples of week 2 on DraftKings is the Monday Night Football misprice. Obviously, the prices come out before those games, or in this case, Sunday Night Football. We're going to talk about this more when we get to wide receivers, but I think that the Rams' offense in general is underpriced on this slate, and so I think that both of the wide receivers, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, are both great plays, and so if I'm going to be playing a lot of them, then I want some Matthew Stafford as well. Again, we saw Russ absolutely tear up this Colts secondary last week, and I think Stafford looks like he's, already well rolling in this Rams offense, and he's just going to continue that in week 2.
Yeah, I mean, he lit up the Bears, and the Bears are supposed to be a pretty good defense. So, I mean, if he did that last week against the Bears, I think he can definitely do it against the Colts for sure.
Are they?
Was that?
Are they a good defense?
Well, they're supposed to have been a good defense. Let's put it that way. They on paper they're a good defense, but he lit them up. I think he had a perfect passer rating against them last week. I think he's the highest rated quarterback in the NFL after 1 week. So Stafford made him look silly.
Yeah, and the Colts had 12 guys on their injury report. Rhodes is out again. They got linebackers out. Defensive ends not going to play. So yeah, they're all beat up. I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to have a 4-touchdown game.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of perfect opportunity, I think my quarterback that I want to mention, going back on that, it's actually Joe Burrow versus Chicago Bears. I think this game providing a lot of good values in a stack-related way and being GPP, very high GPP. I mean, Joe Burrow and any of those wide receivers bringing it back with Darnell Mooney or Allen Robinson, I think he's coming in at 2.7% ownership. If this game actually shoots out kind of like what the Rams game did, I mean, I like this game. I just keep looking at it, and I don't know why people are not too high on it. I mean, I get it. We have 4 other games that are, amazing. But to win a GPP, if you want to be contrarian, this is one way to go. And we saw the Bengals defense. It's still not any better than last year.
No, it's definitely not.
I mean, what's their name? I wouldn't even be amazed if Justin Fields gets on the field, no pun intended, with Andy Dalton sucking ass in the first quarter, and then Justin Fields comes in and it's the whole Joe Burrow versus Field. I mean, I really like this game for GPP, though. I think this is going to be my GPP quarterback that I'm going to have in single entrance, maybe in the arena, maybe.
All right, so yeah, I had 2 mid-tiers that we haven't already talked about yet. One of them I talked about last week that didn't really pan out for me. Unfortunately, I'm going to go back to the well this week, and that's Mr. Ryan Tannehill going to Seattle. We mentioned already that Russ is going to be throwing the ball over the field, lighting them up. I mean, on the other side, it'll have to be Tannehill trying to match him tit for tat. I think Julio has a bounce back game, so I think we can stack Julio there if we want, or AJB. So Ryan Tannehill at 6.3 is very interesting. And then Jameis Winston, I mean, I know that game was sort of a fluke. I mean, what did he have, like 14 passes, but he had 5 touchdowns, something crazy like that. But against Carolina, I think Carolina's defense is a little overrated. So at 6.2, I'll go back to the well with Jameis Winston one more time. That's more of a tournament play, though. I'm not going to play him in any cash games, but I do like Tannehill a lot this week at 6.3.
Man, your love for Jameis will never die.
It never will. All right, well, we all have the same guy in the value tier. We all have only one guy in the value tier this week. I think DraftKings did a pretty good job of pricing these guys, so it was hard to find a cheap quarterback that we liked. So, Tim, I'll let you talk about him first.
Yeah, you actually make a good point there we haven't touched on yet. I think DraftKings did really well in general for a Week 2 slate. Usually at this point, there's a very obvious value play that everybody's got in their lineups, and there may be one guy we can talk about later, but I feel like in general people are kind of tight on pricing a little bit this week. So one guy you can pay down for who really impressed me again in Week 1 is Teddy Bridgewater, a.k.a. Teddy Two Gloves. Part of this is I think that they're, even with the loss of Jerry Jeudy, I think he still has a good offense around him. And more importantly, I think that speaking of defenses that made guys look like MVPs, the Jaguars just looked so bad last week. And Tyrod Taylor just did whatever he wanted. So I think that it's going to be a situation where Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to easily score on the Jaguars, probably multiple touchdowns. And again, he's got some cheaper stacking options if you want to fit in some of those more expensive guys this week.
Yeah, speaking of the Jacksonville defense, like it was crazy, right? Because we talk about Tyrod Taylor being Mr. Conservative. He's like an Alex Smith type quarterback, dink and dunk. They kept cutting to red zone when I'm watching this game. I'm like, man, did they put Deshaun Watson back there? Because this guy's chucking the ball all over the field. It was ridiculous. It didn't even look like the same quarterback. So yeah, Jacksonville for sure I think is a bad defense. And like I mentioned, we all have Teddy B there at the value spot. Anything you wanted to mention on Teddy B, Gerson, before we move to tight ends?
Yeah, I would strongly advise you not to play this guy in cash game, though.
Agreed.
He doesn't have that ceiling. He doesn't have that ceiling of getting you. I'm telling you, Dak, Herbert, Tom, Wilson, all those 4 quarterbacks are going to get either 25 to 30 points this week. And I'd rather just pay up and find value elsewhere because Teddy Bridgewater, his ceiling is probably only 20 points this week. I mean, it might be more, but that's what I think, Yeah. I'd rather go the other way.
I think if you're playing...
I think his ceiling is 25, but I think he could easily get you a 12.
Yeah.
And that's what you can't take is a 12.
Yep.
Exactly.
Agree 100%.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, let's move into the tight end position, which I think is a tough position this week. It's like there's a couple of guys that I like, but then a lot of them I was not going to play for sure. Gerson, I'll go to you first. Give me one of your top tier tight ends.
Damn, this Mexican beer is kicking my ass. Actually, go ahead and go to Tim first.
All right, I'll go to Tim first. Tim, give me one.
You got the drop, man, so we got to go to you, Geoff.
You had the drop. You have it in the notes. I had the drop, so I was waiting for you.
I know. I got to find it, so go to Tim first.
Tim only has... Okay, I'll go to myself, because Tim only has one guy in the top. And so we'll talk about George Kittle versus Philly at 6.4. That's what I have as my other top tier tight end. Obviously, the other guy we probably know already. Gerson's getting that drop queued up for us. But I think Kittle had a little bit of a disappointing game last week. As many points as we put up. We put up 41 points, and Kittle really didn't do a whole lot with them because it was all about Deebo Samuel last week. I think they get Kittle involved this week, and I think Kittle will pay off that 6.4, and he gets a pretty big discount over the other guy. Hopefully, Gerson's got that queue finally queued up there. Do you have it ready to go, Gerson?
Yeah, hold on, YouTube advertisement coming up.
Oh man, tonight's show is a little bit choppy, guys. I apologize.
Okay. Let me see.
All right, we're gonna go to Tim on your mid tier. Tim, we'll come back to Gerson's top tier guy.
Guys, I apologize. Okay. Let me see.
All right, we're gonna go to Tim on your mid tier. Tim, we'll come. Somebody's playing the Facebook in the background. I can hear the video. All right, we're gonna go to Tim on your mid tier. Tim, we'll come. Somebody's playing the Facebook in the background. Somebody's playing that. I can hear the video in the background. Someone's playing it.
I don't have Facebook, do I?
It's either Facebook or YouTube.
All right, well, I fucked that one up, guys. Sorry. I totally forgot about it. I said I had it, and then I forgot it.
Yeah, it's literally in the notes.
No,
Go ahead, talk about your boy.
It's Mr. Darren Waller. I mean, this guy, I feel like I let you guys all down. I promise the rest of the year I'll have it there, okay, guys? Jesus, I'm not perfect, okay?
Send it to me, and I'll add it to my drops. I can put it on my drops.
Yeah, you have a soundboard, damn it. Darren Waller, over the last 10 games, Darren Waller is averaging 10.3 targets per game, 7.2 receptions, 92 yards, and 20.7 fantasy points per game. If that's not elite, I don't know what it is. The best thing about him is that, I watched the Raiders game. Let me tell you this. All the Raiders, I was at there to get Raiders game. All the Raiders fans, if I didn't hear this, stop throwing it to fucking Waller. Throw it to someone else. And then they'd be like, fuck, we have wide receivers? I'm like, he is our only wide receiver. Cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, over his last 17 games, he's also seen a 20% of his team target 14 times. So give me Darren Waller in this matchup. His price is actually pretty fair, too.
Yeah.
7K, right?
7.6.
7,600.
Yeah, 7,600. Oh, sorry, I was thinking I think it's on FanDuel that he's at. 7,600. I think I'm going to play him quite a bit. He's the only tight end I really want to pay up for. I like Kittle, but I'm not like all in on Kittle. We saw a little bit last week of what we expected, but Waller is just the main target hog.
Yeah.
29 points, and in week 17 last week he had 30 points. So this guy's just an elite tight end now.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Kittle, you're playing as a pivot off of Waller. You're not playing him. He's not going to be heavily owned. I just think it's a discount. And then you're playing him as a pivot off of Waller because of his target share is ridiculous. He had 19 targets last week, and it was like every time they dropped back, they were throwing him the ball. It was ridiculous. All right, Sam, let's go to the mid-tier here. We don't have much in the mid-tier either. Give me the guy you got in the mid-tier.
Yeah, I think the obvious shock this week is Noah Fant, and I think there's a couple reasons for that. Part of it, like I said earlier, is just how bad the Jaguars are. But the loss of Jerry Jeudy means that those targets have to be, move around some of the other guys on the team. And I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest beneficiary is going to be Fant. At 4,200, he's like the seventh highest priced tight end on the slate, but he projects in my model for second highest in projected targets. So with a significant discount with 3,400 lower than Darren Waller, again, he's the chalk. You're obviously going to get a high ownership on him, but I think it's for good reason. I think he's in my opinion, the clear play in cash games.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had him as my mid-tier as well. Gerson, you had one more guy that we hadn't talked about yet in your mid-tier. Go ahead and talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, Tyler Higbee. They traded away Gerald Everett, and we see what happened. He was in 68 of the 52 snap. No, he was on all 52 Rams offensive snap. He got 5 for 6 for 68 yards. That's what we want. We want volume for our tight end. And Matthew Stafford is he's going to make this offense move. And last week, shockingly, they passed the ball more than they ran the ball. So, we see a change maybe with Matthew Stafford. McVay says, okay, we're going to pass the ball more, and whatnot. But I think Tyler Higbee is at a fair price. I'm going to have some of him. And maybe people are going to be like, he didn't do so good last week. Well, guess what? Every week's a different week, and I think I'm going to be on him. His ownership is actually, when I was looking at it, Higbee, I think it was like 10%. So maybe I'm wrong. So hopefully that goes down a little bit by Sunday.
Yeah.
People start going off to other people like Darren Waller.
Yeah, I think the problem with the tight end position right now, like I mentioned, it's there's not a lot of guys that I really like. We got two guys in the top tier that we could play. Really just one, it's Waller, and then if you want to pivot to Kittle. We all had Fant in our mid-tier. You got Higbee as your pivot off of that one. And then we got a couple of value guys here. And we'll go ahead and get into those, Tim. Who do you got for your values?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with both of them because I think they're both in kind of a similar spot this week. Obviously, the highest projected game on the weekend is the Dallas and Chargers game. Everybody's going to have exposure to this game. So if you're going to have tournament lineups, you have to try and figure out ways to be different. And so I think one way to be different is including these tight ends in your stacks. So Jared Cook at 3,900 and Dalton Schultz at 3,300 for the Cowboys. I'm going to have some Schultz particularly because you do get a little bit of a discount there. But I think both guys project pretty similarly, and neither one of them is going to come in at super high ownership. So if you do have them included in your DAC or Herbert stacks, you may be a little bit more different from the rest of the field.
Yeah, another thing too that I looked at, because I saw that those two guys you had there, and I know it's only 1 week, so we really can't count DVOA yet, but I looked at the DVOA versus the tight end, and the bottom two teams were Dallas and Chargers, so against the tight end position. So you got that pretty much wrapped up right there with those two guys. So
part of it I think is somewhat on the week one opponents, but yeah, Dallas has been bad against covering the tight end for a long time, so that's why I think Cook is a really good play.
And that was the same case last year. Those two teams we picked on them.
Yep, agreed. Yep. All right, Gerson, you got two guys in your value tier. Go ahead and talk about both of them.
So I don't want to talk about the second one really, but I'll talk about the first one.
It's your boy. You're never gonna let this one go.
Hell no. I'm going to die on this fucking hill. And when I die on it, I hope I die from alcohol. And it just everybody knows I drank myself to death and just played him every week. Adam Troutman, it's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. You just have to trust the process. Adam Troutman, like, we know he's athletic. We know he's like, he's good. But we haven't seen it yet. But he played on 51 out of the 62 snaps. He ran route on almost 35% of those snaps. And basically, he was the highest targeted on the Saints, next to Juwan Johnson got those 2 touchdowns, which pissed me off because let's be honest here, those are Troutman's touchdown. But Juwan Johnson's actually pretty good. I think he's a little bit underrated, kind of like a dynasty player if you want to stash him because he can turn into something. But Troutman, to me, I think at 2,900, I believe he is, right?
That sounds right. He was pretty cheap.
2,900 is a great value play, especially in this kind of game environment. I think I'm going to have him quite a bit. If I'm not paying up for Waller or basically the other guys, Higbee, Fant. I like the Fant call, by the way. So, I mean, against the Carolina Panthers, they're not really all that great on defense. They almost have like an all-rookie defense last year, and this defense this year is not going to be improving too fast. But give me him at 2.5% ownership. I mean, I have him almost projected for 10 points, so that's smashing value.
Yeah, I like that call there. And that Juwan Johnson, so if you're looking for Juwan Johnson at tight end, you're not going to find him. He's still listed at wide receiver on DraftKings. I actually sent a message to my DraftKings connections and said, hey, y'all need to fix this. He's no longer a receiver anymore. He's a tight end because I thought about playing him if he was cheap enough, but I couldn't find him until I went into receiver. That's where he was listed at because last year he was a wide receiver.
Damn, Geoff is making the big calls over here now. Hey, DraftKings, you know what? Make me first place in millions.
Yeah, I wish I could do that. I don't have those kind of connections. I just had two guys real quick that I wanted to mention. Cole Kmet for Chicago. I think he had a couple good targets last week. He's matched up this week against Cincinnati, who we already talked about being a bad defense. So I think Cole Kmet. I think if Gerson's call comes true with Justin Fields, if he does get into this game at any point, I think Cole Kmet's value goes up even more. I think Justin Fields will look his way. And then Conklin for Minnesota. I called him out last week. He didn't have a great game. He had an okay game, but I do think. Value. What was that?
He met value.
He did, yeah. He did hit value. You're right. And at 3.2 versus Arizona. Arizona in the past has been bad against the tight end. I don't know about this year if it's changed at all, but I know in the past we used to target Arizona against the tight end. So Conklin's a good call at 3.2 as well. All right, let's get to our mid-tier, our mid-show commercial here. So tonight's show is brought to you by ThriveFantasy.com. It's DFS for prop bets. Visit ThriveFantasy.com or download the app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code Armchair and get an instant match up to $50. Choose your 10 favorite prop bets in your lineup and compete against the rest of the field for cash prizes. Again, sign up at ThriveFantasy.com or get the app for iOS or Android and use promo code Armchair to get your instant match.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, moving into the running back position. Top tier, Tim, I'll go to you first. Who do you got in your top tier running backs?
Well, I actually want to get Gerson's take on something because I think we're going to have a pretty chalky build in tournaments this week. And part of that is that a lot of people last week tried to go with a bunch of value and then pay up for running back and got burned. So this week, I think a lot of people are going to be paying for these mid-tier running backs. So I have as my top running back Nick Chubb, but I see Gerson has both Kamara and CMC. So make the case for me, Gerson, for paying up at running back this week.
Oh, no, my top running back is Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I put Nick Chubb number one. Can't you see that?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted you to tell me why I should pay up for those other guys.
Yeah, why should you pass on Chubb and go with Kamara or CMC?
we've seen what they can do. Nick Chubb probably hit the ceiling of 35, 30 point, probably like 2 times maybe.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Kamara and CMC done it like, is that how you say it? Routinely, or how do you say it? Over and over. And so, I mean, I just think the price and the price difference, it just doesn't make any sense to play Kamara and CMC. I mean, we're saving a lot of money from Nick Chubb to those two guys. I understand people are still going to play CMC. I mean, he was the top scoring running back last week. He didn't score a fucking touchdown.
Yeah.
Or get one of the bonuses.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. To score 27 points without any of that volume is incredible.
So
like, I would love to pay up for him, but I think he's about properly priced. He should be about 10K.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the CMC didn't even hit the bonuses, didn't get a touchdown. Imagine if he did hit the bonuses, did get the touchdown, he'd be getting 37 points. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, that's the difference. But price, I always take price into account in anything I do on DraftKings, on DFS. So Nick Chubb in this game environment versus the Houston Texans, they're going to roll all over them. I mean, this is a Chubb game. I mean, just like we always say, this is a Derrick Henry game. We're going to, sooner or later, we're going to start saying this is a Chubb game, you know? I mean, I think Chubb is probably one of the best, if not the best football runner. I mean, how do you say that? Just the best run
Pure running back?
Yeah, the best pure runner.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, at running the ball. I mean, Derrick Henry's up there, but Nick Chubb not too far behind.
Yeah, the crazy thing about Chubb, right, is you look at his splits, you know, his snap share. It's like right around 50%. Like, could you imagine if they use this guy that like CMC or Kamara gets used, you know, all the time? If he got that kind of snap share, I think he had like 54% of the snap share last week, and still had a really good game with those 2 touchdowns. So the only other guy
just my one thing to add to that is that they show up number 1 in terms of adjusted line yards. The Browns offensive line against the Texans defensive line. So as if you needed another reason, they're going to be looking to get 5 yards a carry plus for Nick Chubb.
Yep, agreed. I did have Dalvin Cook in there as well at 9.1. His price didn't go up. He hit value last week, but just barely. He was pretty much terrible for a lot of the game. He ended up getting a bunch of catches there in met value, but I do think he'll be have a bounce back game this week against Arizona at 9.1. He'll be more of a tournament play though. I definitely won't have him in cash because I will have a lot of Chubb. And there's one more guy that you had in your top tier there, Tim. I want you to get your thoughts on him as well.
Yeah, this is a guy that going into the season I was not particularly high on because he's burned me in the past. But his usage in week 1 was just insane. And that's Joe Mixon. In a game here against the Chicago Bears, who did not impress me at all last week, I think that if he continues getting the volume he saw at 7,000, he's actually maybe underpriced. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are going to pay up for Chubb, or they're going to pay down for some of those guys around 6K. So I think Joe Mixon's going to go overlooked, and I think that that's a big mistake. I think he's an excellent tournament play this week.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? They're coming off. He's coming off a season where he was injured a lot. So what do? They come out and give him a full workload.
You know what? You paid your full contract, motherfucker. You're gonna play the whole game.
Yep, exactly.
Correct.
It's
And
insane.
they're 5th in terms of adjusted line yards. So
Good
I think
stuff.
this is a situation where everything kind of lines up for Joe Mixon.
Good
I'm
stuff.
telling you guys, this Bears versus Cincinnati game could be that one game. If all the other games fail,
Yep.
Yep.
the game hits over. It could be a contrarian GPP play.
Yep. Agreed. Gerson, we're going to stay with you on this one. Give us some of your mid tiers there. You have a couple guys in there. Go ahead and mention a few of them.
The Mexican beer kicking my ass, so I got to keep up pace. Okay, here we go. Let's go. So the mid tier. So Najee Harris, we haven't talked about him, right?
No, we have
Nope.
not.
If you haven't heard it, every freaking podcast, every fantasy person has said, "Oh, Najee Harris played 100% of his snap." Oh no, shit! they ain't
got nobody.
I mean, yeah, they're gonna give him all the workload. But I mean, I watched. I was in Vegas. I watched all 13 games on one screen, which I hated because I wanted to. I love the red zone. They didn't even have the red zone. That was stupid. I was like, "Where's the red zone?" I don't care about. I'm not gonna watch 13 games on 13 different screens. But it was cool. But Najee Harris, I just felt like it reminded me of he run the ball and then he would like get tackled right away. So like I think the offensive line the problem, but that volume that he's gonna get against the Las Vegas Raiders speaks high for me. the Las Vegas Raiders, their defense is not good. Trust me. Their defense is not good. It hasn't improved. They didn't add much. The only reason they made turnovers, they made plays, but it was mostly fumbles from Lamar Jackson. Just turnover. It wasn't really from stopping the run game or stopping the plays and stuff. And I love Najee Harris. His price is incredible. His ownership is high as hell too. I think he's the highest owned ownership play at almost 19.8%, almost 20% at 6,300. I mean, he's going to be a lock in a lot of people's roster, and there's no reason not for him to be it. With 6,300, you're going to be able to save a lot of salary. I think my core is going to be very simple this week at running back. It's going to be Najee Harris and Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I'm saving money, and this could bite me in the ass because it could go the other way where people say Kamara, CMC, and then one of those guys, and then a combination of one of these Najee Harris.
Yeah, I like that as well. I've heard that same narrative that he played 100% of the snaps in the whole 9. So at 6,300, I think also the fact that he didn't have a really good week 1, that he'll be a little bit lower owned than you might think. Tim, let me go to you in the mid tier. You got a couple guys there as well.
Yeah, one guy I want to talk about who also played just a ton of snaps in week 1 and got a ton of volume is David Montgomery. I think this is another situation where. Well, actually, before we talk about him, I want to talk about Chris Carson because they're the same price, right? I think Chris Carson is going to be the other most popular running back on the week other than Najee Harris and Nick Chubb, right? I think he's going to be right in there in terms of ownership. And so I'm always looking for pivots. It's one of the reasons earlier I talked about liking Russell Wilson is because I think a lot of people are going to look at Carson and maybe not go toward the passing game. Well, at the same price, I like David Montgomery. Again, like I say, he's getting a ton of snaps, basically everything for Chicago. And it's a situation where I think they are going to lean on him continuously. And like I said, at the pivot at that price, I think he's got just as much upside as some of those other guys. And he comes in, like I said, much lower ownership, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that call. And Carson, I think the biggest threat to his carries would have been Rashad Penny, and he's out. So then they got basically Travis Homer and DJ Dallas behind him, so they're not getting too much carries. I think it's going to be all Carson getting basically all the carries there. So I'm with you. I have both those players, Demont and Carson, in my mid-tier as well. Let's go ahead and look down at some of these value tiers. Gerson, I'll go to you first. Give me some of your value running backs.
So are we going to skip over Ezekiel?
Yeah, don't skip over Zeke. Yeah, I want you to talk about Zeke.
So, I think he could be my highest owned running back is Zeke. I get the whole narrative of he shares the workload, blah 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 blah. He got less a row. What did we? Dude, they played the Tampa Bay fucking Buccaneers. Yeah. I mean, that fucking defense is amazing at run stopping. I mean, they're probably one of the most elite top run defense in probably a decade. These guys don't allow points to running back. They allow 13.8 running back points per game. That's total. That's hell low. So give me against this defense, I don't see it being as elite as the Buccaneers. So I think that price is incredible. When I saw I was looking for Zeke, fucking 6.2. Are you serious? This is a guy that is in a Cowboys offense in a great game environment against the Chargers. I'm like, whoa, what am I missing here? Is DraftKings trying to challenge me? Because I'm gonna play a lot of Zeke. And if it breaks my bankroll, then so be it. But he's the best running back on the team. I mean, great game environment, high total. That's what I'm looking for. His offensive line did take a hit with Leo Collin, but I think they're getting back. What's his name? The guy that had COVID. What's his name? They're getting him back, right?
Yeah,
Zach Martin.
Zach
Martin.
Martin.
They're getting him back. So, and he's the leader of that whole offensive line. He's the one that makes all the calls and everything. So getting him back will help Zeke a lot. And this game, I always say, in the passing game, everybody wants to target the stats and everything. You can go very contrarian with just playing Zeke,
Yeah.
And I love Zeke this week. I couldn't believe the price. And right now, his ownership is coming at 10%. So the field is agreeing with me. He's going to be a good play. Play him a lot. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of him. And Zeke's mid-range value is incredible.
Yep, agreed 100%. All right, Tim, we'll go to you then for some of the values.
All right. Which one do I want to talk about? The guy that's on all three of our lists? Let's just talk about Damian Harris. I think that he is an excellent play this week, and part of that is because I think the Patriots defense is absolutely going to roll over Zach Wilson. And so I think this is a situation where the Patriots are going to get up and they're just going to run him 20-plus times. His volume is going to be consistent. He doesn't get much use in the passing game, which makes him kind of a tough play on DraftKings. But I think that he's got, like we saw Josh Jacobs do on Monday night, where he could easily luck block you 2 touchdowns. And if he gets that 100-yard bonus, he could easily end up being one of the best values on the week. So I think I mentioned earlier, it's a little tight on pricing this week. Not a lot of people are going to pay up for defense. So one way to be contrarian in tournaments is to go with Damian Harris and the Patriots D.
Yeah, I like it. Gerson, what do you got for your value?
I think I wanted to talk about one guy. I actually didn't put him on the list, but we had breaking news early on. That was a Josh Jacobs was out. I'm staying away from this, man.
Agreed.
Like the whole Drake, the whole Peyton Barber, the lead back now. John Gruden, I went to Vegas and I didn't smoke weed or anything, but I'm pretty sure they got some good shit out there,
Yeah.
And John Gruden must be smoking some good shit because the last time I remember Peyton Barber was relevant when he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, I'm staying away from that. I know a lot of people are going to go look for that as a value play, but I love the Damian Harris call. Another guy I'm looking at is Daryl Henderson. This guy proved it last week. He had the workload. It was a slow start though. He didn't get there until like the end of because I played Showdown, but he didn't get there until like the second half. But if this offense gets moving, like Tim said, Matthew Stafford, he looked great. I'm going to play some Henderson just for value. He's pretty cheap, and he get 10% ownership, so it kind of proves it. And I saw news that Darius Leonard was hurt. I don't know if that's still true to this day. I know he was
questionable.
He was limited. Yeah, he's questionable.
He was questionable, and if he's out, that defense takes a hit. And I like I like Daryl Henderson in this game at 5,700.
Yep, agreed. All right, so we got a shit ton of receivers to get to, so I'm just going to roll through these last couple of running backs. Elijah Mitchell at 5,000. I like him for tournaments, not for cash games. I know he's a very popular ad in fantasy leagues and season-long leagues. I'm a little nervous myself as a Niners fan on who's going to get the workload. I can see Mitchell leading the backfield, getting 12 carries, Trey Sermon getting 11 carries, and Hasty getting 7 carries in this offense. We never really know what they're going to do there, so I'm a little leery on Mitchell being a lead back there, so don't go spending all your cash game stuff on Mitchell. I also like Chase Edmonds. And Tim, I'll go to you because you got Chase Edmonds on your list as well. Give me your thoughts on Chase Edmonds at 4.9. He's the same price as Drake that Gerson just mentioned. I think I'd prefer him over Drake.
Yeah, I think I do too. It's similar in that they're both going to get most of their usage probably in the passing game, as he's going to be continuing to split with Connor. But actually, the guy that I want to talk about is Javonte Williams, because I think that this may be the week. Like I talked about earlier, if you want to save some money this week, I think he's a really interesting paydown option. He's been talked about a little bit this week in the fact that he got the same number of snaps as Melvin Gordon did, but obviously Melvin Gordon broke up that long touchdown, but nobody wants to play him. His price is still reasonable. If you're looking for value, if you want to get a little bit different this week, pay down to Javonte Williams and pay up everywhere else.
Yep, I like it.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, like I mentioned, we got a ton of receivers to get to. A lot of these guys in the top tier are from the game we've been talking about all night. Gerson, I'll go to you first. Give me some of your top receivers.
So I want to give a shout out to a couple of our members in the chat row. These guys have been there since the beginning. Scott, Joe, Damien. Hey, Damien, by the way, you owe me a fucking hat, so pay up, motherfucker. A wide receiver. Fuck, dude. There was so many wide receivers options this week that I gave up on research. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. But this week, like I told Tim and Geoff earlier on, I think it's a wide receiver flex spot play. Like that's what you want to have in your flex spot. There's so much good value, so many games to target. My number one guy is Mr. Keenan Allen. This guy week in, week out. Okay, Alex, I see you. And Alec, pick shout out to you too.
Yeah, he's an OG, but when he was playing, he was old to even play DFS. I think he was 16 when we first started this chat.
No, right? He didn't hit puberty until he was like 18 either. No. Keenan Allen, 7,000 in this game environment. I mean, this guy has a great matchup against Jordan, something I can't. And he has the best rank, wide receiver matchup. 7,000. He's going to be coming in at 14% ownership. I mean, I know it was week 12, 2017, but the only time that he played Dallas Cowboys, he had 37 points.
Whew.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he went for 14 targets, 11 receptions, 172 yards, and a touchdown. I'm not saying that's his doing because we're now in 2021, but shit. I mean, this game can shoot out. And Keenan Allen, he's just a target monster. He's the highest projected wide receiver for me right now. He's at 24 points. So I'm going to have a ton of Keenan Allen. And that's the way you're going to stack it with Justin Herbert.
Yep. All right, Tim, you got a couple guys there in your top tier that we hadn't talked about yet. Go ahead and hit those guys.
Yeah, like you said, we got to go quick. So I want to talk about two guys. They're on the other side of that game. It's Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb at 6,800 and 6,400. I think that they're going to be two of the most popular plays on the slate, but for very good reason. Obviously, we talked about the high total. I think, both of them are excellent plays. I'm actually going to have more exposure to Kupp than Cooper. But both guys, especially with Michael Gallup out, are expected to see say 12 to 15 targets. And I think that they're going to be behind in this game, so they're going to have to throw. As we know, Dak will throw the ball 50 times with no problem. So I think both of those are going to be very popular plays along with Keenan Allen. And so you're going to be looking to get different elsewhere.
Yeah, I like it there. You took all the guys that I wanted to talk about, so I'll move down into the mid-tier, and I'll stick with that same game and go with Mike Williams. This guy had 12 targets last week. 12 targets. And he's only 6,100 this week against the Dallas Cowboys. Actually dropped a touchdown pass, too, that would have made his day even better. He had one touchdown pass, and he dropped another one. So at 6.1, Mike Williams in this game with the high total. If he's getting anywhere close to 12 targets at 6.1, he's definitely a slam dunk for me. I also like Allen Robinson at 6.2 versus Cincinnati. We mentioned how bad Cincinnati's defense is. I think Robinson bounces back in a big way at 6.2. I think he's way underpriced. Gerson, let me go to you on some of your mid-tier guys here.
So I don't want to get away from DK Metcalf, though, and Tyler Lockett. Those are two guys I'm definitely targeting. Okay, guys, let's just be honest here. You're going to be targeting all the Seattle wide receivers, all the Cowboys wide receivers, Chargers wide receivers, Chicago wide receivers. I mean, this is going to be pretty high ownership shit on all of them. I mean, these are all games that are just 55 over. I think there's 3 games over 50, or 4 games over 50 points.
Yep.
So target those guys. Oh, by the way, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. What's his name?
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. God, everybody forgot about Mike Evans all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This might be the Mike Evans comeback week, man. One thing we haven't talked about on this show, 2 things we haven't talked about. Week 1 overreactions, right? And then recency bias. So everybody's going to look at the box score and think Mike Evans didn't do shit in week 1. I'm not going to play his ass. I'm going to play Chris Godwin. I'm going to play Antonio Brown. And he may come in at sub 10% ownership. And he's historically torched the Atlanta Falcons. So I could easily see a big game for Mike Evans here at lower ownership than we would normally see him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like it. Gerson, you did have 2 guys there that Devonta Smith and Cooper Kupp that we hadn't talked about yet. Give me your thoughts on those guys.
So Cooper Kupp is going to be probably one of my highest owned wide receivers this week. I mean, last week he was. We know Matthew Stafford. He targeted the slot wide receivers, and he got 10 targets, 7 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown. In this game, he's going to face Indiana and Kenny. I can't pronounce it. Kenny Moore. Well, Kenny Moore the second. He's going to be matched up with him. Great matchup. 6,000. Wow. Yeah. For a wide receiver that's supposed to be the elite wide receiver on their team. Robert Wood, I don't know where the fuck he went last week because I played him in Showdown. That motherfucker didn't show up. I was like, what are you? But Cooper Kupp did amazing. His value is incredible, though. 6,000. I mean, I have him projected for almost 18 points. So, give me a lot of Cooper Kupp this week. in that
He's
game.
going to be one of the most popular, if not the most popular, wide receiver plays in cash games.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're ready for the value. We'll go to you, Tim. You can kick us out the value here.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with a guy that I had some exposure, but not enough last week after he broke off that long touchdown toward the end, and that's Marvin Jones. There was some talk that he was going to be the number one for Jacksonville. It looks like he will be. He played 91% of snaps for them last week, and at 4,600, he's still not obviously priced like a wide receiver one. Obviously, Denver has a pretty good defense, but I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have to throw in this game, and I think Marvin Jones could easily see close to 10 targets, which is excellent value at 4,600.
I love it. Gerson, you got one of my favorite players there highlighted there. Talk about Mr. Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, man. In case I haven't said it, target that Cincinnati versus Bears game. As stupid as this sounds, I mean, this sounds stupid. Like, honestly, when we have 4 other games with, like, 4 quarterbacks that are fucking amazing, and then you got fucking Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's the revenge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm hoping that Justin Fields just comes in and then tears it up. But it's more for, like, the Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson plays are going to be for bring back. They're not going to be for, like, stacking him with Andy Dalton. Nobody can stack. The only person that would stack with Andy Dalton is his mom.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ooh.
Yeah, so.
No, even she's playing Justin Fields. She knows better.
Yeah, he's playing Justin Fields. So Darnell Mooney, I mean, this guy last year, he came on the second half, and he was supposed to be top breakout player this year, and he didn't do very good in the first game, obviously. But I think I was shocked at his price, $4.2K.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, that saved him a lot of salary. I think he could be one of my favorite value plays, and he's gonna get targeted in this game. He's gonna have the Bengals are gonna shoot out. They're not. It's not gonna go low scoring like last week or anything. And I think Darnell Mooney can be a very good pivot, and Darnell Mooney can be a good way to fit that tight end elite like Waller.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Damn it,
And one last note to add on Darnell Mooney. He played even more snaps last week than Allen Robinson. He played 100% of snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Robinson, I think, was like 93%. So to get a guy that plays 100% of snaps at 4,200 is insane.
Good stuff.
Allen Robinson had to go pee for those other snaps.
Yeah, he did. Hey, I want to talk about one guy who popped up today, like you talked about, some last-minute news, and he may end up being one of my highest rostered, low value wide receivers, and that's Jaylen Waddle. With the news that Will Fuller will not be playing in this game, he should see the same role he saw last week, which is seeing 80% of the snaps. And as an added bonus, I expect Tre'Davious White, a pretty good corner, to be locked up with Devontae Parker. So he'll either get their slot corner or their other terrible corner, Levi Wallace, leading to an opportunity for him to see 20-plus fantasy points at 4,500, which I think would be an excellent value.
Yeah, and the way you were talking there, I thought you were going to mention the guy I was talking about. Gerson's got it on his list, and I actually had him as my sit call until Gerson had him on his list.
Yep.
And that's Cedric Wilson. Was he 3.1 on DraftKings?
3.1, yeah.
3.1, and Chris Harris, the cornerback there, has been ruled out, so he will have a much better matchup there. He's the third receiver that would have been Michael Gallup. Gallup's obviously not going to be there. Cedric Wilson could potentially have some good targets. At 3.1 in a game with that high of a total, I think that's definitely a good play at 3.1. Another cheap guy I had is also KJ Hamler, obviously filling in for Jerry Jeudy. A lot of people are on Tim Patrick because he had the bigger game last week without Jerry Jeudy, but I think it's because Hamler wasn't part of the original game plan because they had Jeudy there. But I think Hamler, as far as what he does, fits more of what Jeudy did. So I think Hamler fills that Jerry Jeudy role. So at 3.8 against Jacksonville, like we mentioned, bad defense, I think Hamler at 3.8 is a really good play as well. Is there anybody else you want to talk about, Tim, before we move down to the defense?
Yeah, one guy real quick is KJ Osborne. He played 81% of the snaps for the Minnesota Vikings as their third wide receiver, and almost all of those were out of the snap, and he gets the best wide receiver matchup for the Vikings this week against Arizona. So at 3,300, if he sees 5-6 targets, maybe gets an end zone target, he can easily pay off, and I expect him to be pretty low owned. So again, we're talking about how do you get different this week, and I think he's one way to get different, particularly if you want to use him as a bring back option and say a Kyler Murray stack.
Yeah, and somebody asked in the chat there about Cincy receivers, and you actually had Chase as your mid-tier, and we didn't get a chance to talk about him, but just real quick, give us your thoughts on Chase.
Oh, yeah, I love Jamar Chase this week. He's absolutely – I mean, we've talked about all show long how much we love that Cincinnati-Chicago game. I don't know that we really need to spend any more time on it. But, yeah, Jamar Chase obviously proved everybody wrong in week 1. He came out, looked like easily their number 1 receiver. I think Tyler Boyd technically has the better wide receiver cornerback matchup, but they're going to continue throwing to him. I think I saw that he had like 4 or 5 targets more than 15 yards down the field. So they like to throw it to him deep, and he's still 5K, which is still insane for his upside. So I love Jamar Chase, Boyd, and then probably Higgins in that order.
I like it.
I'm just letting you guys know right now, we are the only podcast in the industry that is talking about the Bears and Cincinnati Bengals game more than any other game.
I know. I almost feel like we're setting it up for a bust now.
Yeah, no, let's hope it hits. Let's hope it hits for sure.
I'm getting a vibe of Green Bay Packers, last week.
Yeah.
All
right.
Knock on wood for that one.
Let's get to the defense.
Defense.
All right, we'll start off with Mr. Defense. Tim, talk about who you got there in your defense.
All right, so there are 2 defenses that I first put down because I think they're in very similar situations, much like the running backs with this team, right? So I've talked about before, I like to run a pair of running back with the defense because oftentimes if the game is lower scoring, they're just going to ride that guy out. So Chris Carson with the Seattle Seahawks, and then Najee Harris with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of those defenses are 3K. But I actually like the Seahawks a little bit better now because it looks like that game may be played in rain. And so whenever you have a possibility for a game to be played in rain, I think if things can get a little sloppy, get a turnover, and obviously that's great for defensive scoring. So those are my favorite. If you're going to pay up for, say, 3K, those are my favorite 2.
I like it. I have the Bears versus Cincinnati. We already documented how Cincinnati's offensive line is pretty terrible. So I do think the Bears can rack up some sacks, and Joe Burrow's going to throw the ball a ton, and he could definitely throw some turnovers there. So Bears at 2.8 are my defense. Gerson, you don't have a defense listed there, so do you have one you wanted to talk about?
I just let Tim do it, The defense I'm looking at right now is the same for the Carolina Panthers and the Dolphins versus Josh Allen. Josh Allen looked all that great last week. He looked very sloppy. He looked like 2019 Josh Allen, more than 2020 Josh Allen. And I don't pay up for defense very much. You guys already know that. If there's 2 positions I don't pay up for, it's tight end and defense, and unless they're the elite like Darren Waller or whatnot. But defense, like I always say, man, defense should be your last spot that you're filling in.
Yeah.
But it's just play the defense. Tim says it's not that hard. I want to give a shout out to a couple of the guys that had a quick question. What Cedric Wilson's ownership is right now is 2%. It's just right now we already talked about the wide receivers for the Cincinnati game. Just play all of them. And Deebo Samuel, no, not his season.
Not playing Deebo.
Before we move on from defense, I will say that my favorite defense, if you're going to pay down, is actually the Philadelphia Eagles. I know week 1 they played against the Atlanta Falcons, so all their stats are kind of skewed, but I do think that they could end up doing some damage on Geoff's 49ers. So if you're going to pay down $2,400, I think that they end up having a good chance to be the number 1 value defense on the week.
Yeah, and I'll go with it on that because Garoppolo, he's been known to turn the ball over. He can't throw the ball away. I hate that about him. He can never throw the ball away. He has to throw the ball somewhere, and a lot of times
this is a home
picks.
game for the Eagles too. Right now the Eagles, right now they're home dog. So sometimes those games can turn around a little bit.
Yep.
Especially when Garoppolo is the quarterback, right?
Yep.
Jimmy G. How quick until we see Trey Lance in there full time?
I kept saying week 1, but Jimmy G played good week 1, so I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer until he screws up really bad.
Yeah, it's easy when you play against the Lions secondary.
Agreed. Someone on Facebook, unfortunately, it only says Facebook user, asked if we're fading Thielen and Jefferson. No, we are not. We just can't talk about every single receiver. I had him on my list. I had Thielen on my list at least, and I just didn't get to him. But no, those 2 guys are also in play. I think Thielen more than Jefferson for me, but I do like both of those guys. All right, let's get to the stacks.
Going4two.com's weekly stack report.
All right. As if we didn't already know who the stack was, I'm going to go to Gerson first. Gerson, what is your stack here?
It's Dak, Cooper, Wilson, and Allen. And that's Cedric Wilson coming in at 2% ownership. Amari Cooper can be one of the highest owned wide receivers along with Allen. But like I said, it's back attack, baby. It's his time. I mean, this game can be a very high-scoring game. Everybody's going to be playing him. So I love that stack.
All right, and I like Tim's stack because it's very contrarian. We didn't talk about a lot of these guys, just a couple of we touched on, but give us your stack, Tim.
Yeah, like I said, with everybody looking at that Cowboys and Chargers game, I'm going to be looking at Tom Brady, who should throw multiple touchdowns against that terrible Falcons defense. So I'm going to go with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, and bringing it back with Calvin Ridley, who I think bounces back after a bad week 1.
Good stuff. And I'm going to the Seahawks and Titans game, and I'm going Ryan Tannehill, AJB, Julio. I'll probably play both of them. I think Julio will have to bounce back. I think both of them can catch touchdowns, and then I'll bring it back with Metcalf. It's a pretty expensive stack, so you'd have to find some good value there, but I do think it can be played, and I do like that stack a lot. All right.
I was so confused because early on you had like 4 different players. I was like, which way is he going?
Yeah, I couldn't decide on my stack. I didn't want to go with the stack that I knew would be the chalk, so I was trying to find something a little bit different there, so I changed it up. All right, let's get to the sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
So none of our sick calls did very well last week. I think Javonte Williams was probably the closest one to being good. He had 14 carries, didn't do a whole lot with them. My guy, Quez Watkins, actually came out of the game, had the very first 3 targets and the very first 3 catches, and I'm like, oh, yes, we're in for a big game. He ended the game with 3 catches and 3 targets. He didn't do anything else the rest of the game. Pissed me off. So mine didn't hit. The Packers, we mentioned how bad they played, so we know MVS didn't do good for Tim. But that's what the sick call is. It's either going to blow up or it's going to blow up in your face. So, Gerson, we'll go to you first. Give me your sick call.
Oh, man. I can't even pronounce the last name.
O'Shaughnessy.
O'Shaughnessy.
Shaq Hennessy.
Shaq Hennessy.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Hispanic, okay? I'm Hispanic. My first language is Spanish, and then my second language is English. No, actually, I speak better English than Spanish, though. That's the funny thing. This guy, I mean, he beat out all the other guys in competition. He beat out Chris Martinez, and I can't remember the second guy, but he got 10 points last week. He got targeted 8 times, 6 receptions, 48 yards. And if we know anything about rookie quarterbacks, they target their tight end, kind of their hot route safety blanket. And yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions last week, you know. And I'm gonna go back to him at 2,700. I mean, I'm gonna go to him. I didn't have him last week against Denver. I already know Damien Porter is gonna talk shit in the chat row and say my Denver defense. Okay, calm down. $2,700 for Jameis O'Shaughnessy at 3% ownership. I have him projected for 7.8 fantasy points right now. So if he can get me, you know, say 8 points, I'm gonna be happy.
Be good.
You know.
All right, Tim's got a sick call Hall of Famer here that he's got for his. He had a pretty good week the week that I had him in my sick call. Who you got?
That's right. I'm bringing it out for the pride of the University of North Texas, Mr. Jalen Guyton. I think this week we talked about how Cedric Wilson I expect to be a popular pick. But on the other side, third wide receivers have torched the Cowboys in the past, and I think that that's going to continue again this week. So I think, again, we talked about how do you get a little bit different in your stacks with Dallas and the Chargers, and I think using Jalen Guyton at 3,100 as either a stack candidate or a bring-back candidate gives you a ton of ceiling and gives you some differentiation in tournaments.
I like it. I'm staying with the receiver position, and I'm going to go with Mr. Anthony Schwartz. He's a rookie for the Browns. OBJ's been ruled out already. Schwartz is questionable, so make sure he plays if you decide you want to put him in your lineups. But if Schwartz plays, he'll be the third receiver there. But even last week, he had 5 targets, 3 catches, 86 yards. I think against Houston, he can have a similar kind of lineup. And at 3.3K, he'll be super sneaky, and I do think he can have a good game there. DPJ actually played more snaps and had far less targets, and I think he only had 1 catch. So Schwartz obviously was a more targeted receiver from Baker Mayfield. So against Houston at 3.3, I can definitely see that happening. All right, guys, that wraps the podcast up. We're going to go around really quick, just give them where we can follow you at and talk about the Facebook group as well. Gerson, we'll go to you first.
What's Kim?
All right, go to Tim. He's stacking up his beer. All right,
Okay.
Tim.
All right, yeah. Find me on Twitter at Keto DFS, and then as always, find us on Facebook in the DFS Roundtable Facebook group. I try and get a thread going in there every week to talk NFL. Got a lot of good info, a lot of good stats in there, so I highly recommend joining the group.
All right, Gerson, are you ready to go to you now?
No, I can't take that shit. But I didn't do it, guys. But I promise I will drink this full beer.
Oof.
Mexican beers are tough, guys. Those beaners are very hard to fight with. No, you can find me at. Well, first off, you can find me on Sunday morning shows. Geoff, what's the name of the show? You know it.
Going for 2 live pregame show.
Yeah, sure. Okay. You can find me there. I don't know what time it's at either.
11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yes. Okay.
I'll tell you, it's called Plays for Procrastinators, is what that show is. Right?
Yeah.
You wait until the last minute to do all of your research. Gerson will tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, that's.
You know what? I'll say it in my own word. I show you the answer to the test.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it. And it's funny because Geoff made it, like Gerson said, he's just going to show you the answer to the test. Just show up on there and just tune in, guys, because honestly, that's when I finish all my research. That's when I give you all my opinions. Right after I finish that show, I go and make all my rosters off what I just gave you. And I'm not one of those people that's going to bullshit around and tell you, play this guy, play that guy, if I'm not playing it. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm going to tell you who I'm playing. I'm going to show you who I'm playing. You can go find me on all the research tool, who I'm playing, and that's who I'm playing. And just find me on the show on Sunday. You can find me at Fantasy GDFS on Twitter. Please add me on Twitter. I'm trying to catch up to fucking Tim. Tim's getting too far ahead. Fuck this shit. Come on, guys. Help me out here. I'm not gonna catch up to Geoff because he's been masturbating to Twitter for like 30 years. Yeah, just follow me there. Hey, shout out, guys. Sorry, I failed you guys on the 12-pack, but
It's all right, man. It's all right. It's only week 2. We got a whole season ahead of us. All right, guys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert 77. As Gerson mentioned, we get the Sunday morning show. We also have a show pretty much every night right now on the Going for 2 Live network. Literally every night we've got a show. So if you haven't tuned in, definitely do that. All right, that's it, guys. That's a wrap. Hope you all have a good week this week. For Gerson, for Tim, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.
Go, Pack, go!
peace.
All right. Good shit. Good shit.
This fucking Mexican beer is kicking my ass.
We almost, even with all the shit, stayed on time.
Yeah, we didn't.
I was looking at the clock and I was like, we're going to do this. We basically skipped over the mid-tier of wide receivers, but we almost did this.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Dude, oh my god, dude. Like, that wide, like, I don't know. Fucking, I told myself, I was doing research. Wide receiver is the last position, right?
Yeah.
And I told myself, as soon as I started looking at all the plays, I'm like, fuck. I should have probably done wide receivers first.